Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Kesteven series. This is a large Lincolnshire district centred around the town of Sleaford. There's 75 parishes here, so let's take a look at one of them. Welcome back to North Kesteven, everybody, and today I've got a village for you that's another nice circular walk. This is where the A607 meets the A17, and that happens in the parish of Ledeneham. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. The last of the cliff villages in North Kesteven, welcome to Ledeneham, which is right on the boundary with South Kesteven. With a population less than 400, Ledeneham is a linear village, primarily lying almost equidistant between Lincoln and Grantham. It's 14 miles from the former and 11 from the latter. The name of the village probably comes from the Anglo-Saxon Leodan and means homestead or village of a man called Leoda, possibly giving it some connection to Leeds, although that's never been confirmed. It appears in the Domesday Book as Ledenham, just spelt in a slightly different way. During the 1700s, much of the village belonged to the Reeve family, whose family seat is still Ledeneham House. It's a Georgian country house built in 1790 for William Reeve. Many of the village's features are in some way Reeve related, like for example the Ledeneham Polo Club, which was founded by them. The school stands on land given by the family too. In 1995, Ledeneham was bypassed to the south by the A17, which meets the A607 here. The Royal Flying Corps established an airfield here in 1916, just to the east of the village to help protect against Zeppelin attacks. It was short-lived, closing in 1919. The location is noted by a sign, but few traces remain. And because it all sits on the cliff top, it's got another fantastic panoramic view. One last time on the cliff. Let's go. So by now we're pretty familiar with how the cliff villages look. Ledeneham is really no different. Let's see what's here. There were, until recently, two pubs. Our first landmark is the George Hotel, a 300-year-old coaching inn. T.E. Lawrence, or Lawrence of Arabia, wrote 7 Pillars of Wisdom in this building in what was its restaurant. The other pub was called the Willoughby Arms. We'll get to that later. Newark Road now, and here's M. Hodson & Sons Motors. Newark Road is a hill, and quite a steep one at that. It runs down the Lincoln Cliff to join the modern-day A17. This used to be the main road through Ledeneham until the A17 bypassed the village to the south in 1995. Now we've turned onto Back Lane, which runs parallel to the High Street. These houses have quite the view, let me tell you. In fact, I don't need to tell you, I can show you. On a clear day, you can see all the way to the Derbyshire Hills from here. We continue south, down Back Lane, past some pretty houses, towards the Ledenham estate, which is our next section. So I've just been debating with myself which church it is I can see from here. There's a big tall spire which is about there on the horizon. I think it's Carlton-on-Trent. I'm just trying to get my bearings. It can't be Newark, even though that's the tallest building in Nottinghamshire, the church in Newark town centre. That's more that way, I believe. I think we are looking at Carlton-on-Trent over there. Just a hunch, just based on where I'm looking. This archway is known as the Gate. It leads onto the Ledenham estate centred around the massive Ledeneham House. The estate hosts an annual folk festival on the first Sunday in August. It's a celebration of authentic Lincolnshire folk music. For the most part, the house and the estate are private. We can't see either of them, but via Rectory Lane we can see bits. The rectory is down here too. Grade 2 listed, it has a curious lintel over its doorway inscribed Joannes D 1565. Ledeneham House was built in 1790 for William Reeve. It stands in parkland surrounded by 3,000 acres of farmland. More on the house shortly, but now we've come around the corner onto the A607 to the Lit Gate of St Swithin's Church. St Swithin's is a Grade 1 listed 13th century church with a magnificent spire which can be seen for miles around. This church contains a statue of St Swithin in his episcopal robes which can be seen over the north porch entrance. In 2012, St Swithin's received a grant of £10,000 to replace the lead roof, repair gutters and fit a new alarm system. Let's have a look inside. In 1841, Augustus Welby Pugin hand-painted the chancel ceiling here in a wonderful 14th century style. So not only is it open, but we've also got some music playing in the background. Don't know whether you can hear it on the camera right now. So, is there somebody in here? You just never know when you hear something in a church. Let's have a look. It's coming from in the chancel. Ah, here we go. From that CD player down there. Very unusual to be greeted with song in a church. But there we go. Can anyone name the song? I know what it is, and I'm not a religious person. Awesome church, massive spire. You can see this for miles around. I mean, obviously we talked about the church you could see from the top of the cliff there, which I think is Carlton-on-Trent. But this is another church that can be seen for a long way as well, because it's on top of the hill. If you drive up the A17, you are bound to see the spire of St Swithin's on your journey. Excellent. Right, let's head out of the church then and back into the village. And now we're going to tackle some of the other landmarks within Ledenham. One thing it has got, which I find a bit unusual, is a polo club. I noticed it on the way down to the church. That's next. Here's a bit more about Ledenham House. It's a Grade 2 listed country house constructed in 2.5 stories of ashlar and dressed limestone rubble. It was built, as we already know, for William Reeve between 1790 and 1796 by Christopher Staveley of Melton Mowbray. It was extended by the architect Lewis Villamy between 1826 and 1829 and altered by another architect, Detmar Blow, in 1903. Blow also hung 2 of the reception rooms with hand-painted oriental wallpaper. It descended within the Reeve family to Lieutenant Colonel William Reeve, who was High Sheriff of Lincolnshire in 1957. Ledenham House is still the Reeve family seat. As we've seen already, every August thousands descend on the estate for the annual Day of Lincolnshire Folk, which features nearly 100 folk musicians from around Lincolnshire. This event emerged in 2010 out of the free and informal 600 Whiskies weekly folk nights, long established by Tom Lane in the George Hotel. This is a first. Never before have we seen a polo club. This is fairly new, having been established by James Reeve in 2006. Now let's make our way up the A607 towards Ledenham's central crossroads, once much busier than it is now. On the way there's the parish notice board. Mark Ledenham off your lists, folks. 9 down in North Kesteven, 66 to go. Is it possible for the channel to have a favourite bus service? You all know the one that serves the cliff villages by now. Next to pass is an old forge and associated garage. Forge Cottage is used now as a holiday let. Next is a shop and post office. It used to be Ledenham Tea House too, which is now relocated to Ledeneham House stables. Here's the crossroads. Before the A17 bypassed the village in 1995, traffic used this between Newark and Sleaford. The original houses in the village were all built around this crossroads. That makes this area Ledenham's oldest part. Now we're on the High Street, and this building is the former Willoughby Arms, which has now been converted into a house. Most houses in Ledenham are limestone. Over the years here, growth has taken place, mainly along the A607. Despite the growth, the main impression still remains the same: stone-built houses surrounded by rich, arable farmland. Now, is it just me, or are old Wesleyan chapels becoming a little bit more difficult to find out here in North Kesteven? Because I wouldn't have guessed that that was an old chapel until I saw the stone above that brown door. It doesn't look anything like the kind of Wesleyan chapel that we're used to seeing. But it is, according to the stone, Wesleyan Methodist Chapel 1841, so says that date stone. The last part of the walk takes us through the car park of the George Hotel and back onto the A607 towards the school. This emerges at a small green where you can see some of the newer developments Ledenham has seen recently. Ledenham C of E Primary School is over the road, and it stands on land given by the Reeve family in 1857. Education in Ledenham can trace its origins back further, as the current school replaced a former dame's school. Just after the school, there's a path which runs east along the edge of the playing field and the village hall. Built in 2000, this whole complex is a modern multi-purpose facility for the people of Ledenham and the surrounding area. The village hall is Ledenham's premier communal space. It can accommodate up to 140 people, and it has a 40-space car park. And virtually opposite, there's a farm. Despite all the history, let's not forget, Ledenham is still a farming community. To finish with, we're taking a drive to the north to cover a few other bits. Note the garage on the left for one. We're heading for a different kind of garage here though. Ledenham has for more than 75 years been associated with the name Troops. They deal in vehicle sales, service and accident repair. Here's their main site. If memory serves me rightly though, there were once two sites in the village a few years ago, but there now only appears to be one. Troops is located right next to a bridge over the former Lincoln to Grantham railway line. Ledenham once had a station on the line, which still stands today, fronting the A607. And now we're back to Newark Road, and we're heading down the cliff towards the A17. That's been Ledenham, and by extension, the cliff villages of North Kesteven. Next week, we'll be starting to work our way back north through the valley which the cliff overlooks, and I can't wait to get cracking. I'll see you there all! Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.